What's going on, guys? I am Degidio. We are back with another Jaxxon podcast, a very special edition. We're sitting here with two legends in the game, Ryan Villopoto and the new co-host, Twitch. Twitch will be joining us on the Jaxxon podcast channel to help us get an inside look, an in-depth experience with some of his friends, some action sports icons, some moto legends, so we can kind of get a unique feel and help build this audience that you guys have so kindly already helped us build, surpassing over 100,000 subscribers. I really feel like the MMA community and the action sports community has always been something that's been intertwined, and the community is really synonymous with the lifestyle and the way they dress and feel and kind of like live their life. So I feel like this is a cool segue, bringing some of our Jaxxon athletes like Twitch into the family of the media channel. So Twitch, I appreciate that. Ryan, I appreciate it. I feel like we just kicked this off like, boys, just run it.
Yeah, let's do it. Definitely stoked to have you down for sure. I've been a fan and a friend for a while now, and just seeing your whole career go down is to sit there and watch you since you were on like 85s. You know what I mean? This little ginger kid that was fast as hell and would smoke everybody. Like I've always had that memory. It's just funny. I actually watched a video last night that popped up. You were battling, or you were actually just messing around with Malcolm McCassie.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, dude, I'm like, that's so funny. I'm like, that was so long ago.
What was that, Gramageddon or something? Yeah. Mini Warriors, old video.
And that was a good thing about Malcolm, is he always knew all the young kids that were going to be badasses, and he would always like put himself around them. You know what I mean? Like he was always good at spotting that.
He's doing it again now.
Yeah, he is with this whole new brand.
Yeah, Mended, I think. Yeah,
it's cool. I saw he started making gear. I seen hats, underwear, so it's cool to see him pop back in the scene, because I didn't see him for a while.
Yeah, it was been gone for a little, not gone, but yeah, out of that kind of out of that industry for a little while.
Yeah,
it's a unique space though. I mean, the guy.
It is
for the audience that doesn't know. Malcolm was the founder of Ethica and built one of the coolest underwear brands in the game.
Yeah,
dude, he had stickers like maybe 10 years before there was ever even a underwear.
Easily,
the first one.
Yeah,
I can remember running the sticker. He goes, "Here, put the sticker on your visor." I'm like, "Well, what is it?" I'm like 12. It's my underwear company. Well, where's the underwear? I got stickers right now.
What a crazy foresight of marketing and experience. Because you guys in the action sports community and moto, like you were talking about it, how important branding is and how you guys looked at it back then.
It is, yeah. Yeah, for me back then, no one really wanted to sponsor me that much back then when I was like first starting out, because I was a little rough around the edges. It took me a while.
Your guys' whole scene was a bit rough around the edges. Now it's way, it's way cleaned up now, you know?
It is. It definitely got a lot more professional on our side, but in the beginning it was like, the racers didn't want, like, you guys didn't want to have nothing to do with it. We don't want to be around those dudes.
Well, they were just way off in left field, like, and it was just a different time too. Now it's a lot of that is a lot more accepted. They're also a lot more clean cut too, in a way, business sense and all those other things. Before it was kind of like all those dudes were the rejects, right? Essentially, 100%. Like you go back, look at the old Metal Militia days, and you guys were just doing, and none of it was ever even like tested. Like you guys were just like breaking ground, like without foam pits, without any of that stuff. Now it's way more calculated.
Yeah, we were going out partying the night before, staying up till 4 or 5 in the morning, where you guys are like, hey, we're sleeping for 2 days because we have a race coming up. You know what I mean? Like, we were just having fun with it. But I honestly think once I had my first daughter is when I was like, dang, I got to take this serious, So that's for me when I started like, okay, I can make a lot of money doing this. And I was like, I'm going to take it as serious as I can. And that's when I basically started winning stuff, when I like quit partying, started sleeping, got a trainer, took it more serious like a Supercross athlete would be. That's like back then, like when I would come to your house and ride Supercross when we were riding Speed and Style with Randy Lawrence. We had the same trainer at the same time. And for me, that was kind of like the era of like, okay, I got to get my shit together.
Yeah, no, it's definitely different. And I think you see the progression. Now it's like, obviously there's not really, I mean, the X Games and that's all that stuff's kind of like, it's still around, but it's not. Now it's completely different. You guys have a whole bunch of different outlets, par for like Instagram and TikTok and all these other things. There's a whole set of different outlets now that's money makers that you don't have to go out and necessarily do comps.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it, I think too, with having the social media, it's definitely a lot bigger outreach, and we get away with a lot more stuff. Like you can be a little edgier,
Yeah.
So for me, I wanted to get into 2007 Budds Creek Motocross of Nations when you smoked everyone on a 250F.
Yeah, that was a huge weekend for Team USA, for myself. Essentially, I think Ricky's last gate drop. and Tim Ferry too was our teammate. So it was me, Ricky, and Tim Ferry, and it was on American soil.
Yep.
And if anybody that follows Supercross, motocross, that is the Motocross of the Nations is our Olympics of the sport. So it's the most prestigious race that you can, number one, be invited to, let alone win. Right. So Budds Creek was honestly, like, people ask that, like, what was your favorite race? And I'd have to probably go back to that being Budds Creek. And that day to me I might as well have been almost like Matrix, like as bullets are flying past you, like I could see everything coming, like it was an unreal day.
Everything was slow motion.
It was, like it honestly was. It couldn't have, like, I even hit a guy fell in front of me. I ran over his bike, got stuck on it, was able to pull the bike off. At that point, I already had like a 20 or so second lead, like heart rate spiked up. I was like, oh shit, where's everybody at? That all started running through my head, but then I got it off, kept going. And the day was, it was basically perfect. I know Ricky gave me the inside gates, both motos, which is normally what you do when you have the small bike versus the 450. So 250 versus 450. You normally give the small bike the inside gate. So I was, lucky enough to get that done. And 2 hole shots, and dude, it was an unreal day.
Yeah, that was pretty bitching to watch. I remember everyone was just like, I remember we were literally on the couch watching it, and everyone's just cheering like, I can't believe Villopoto is smoking all these dudes on a 250 right now. Yeah,
and amongst with all the Euros too, like, dude, it's some of the best racers in the world. I think we have pretty much a lot of times there's not every single country involved, but essentially there's anybody that has the money to send 3 riders. We have them all. So there's anywhere from 48 countries that are kind of involved to if not a couple more,
Every year too, I've always felt like the Euros are way better motocross racers.
It's becoming that way. It is becoming that way. I think because Supercross and because of our platform that we're based on over here, it's all based around Supercross, the TV package and everything that we have. They only have MXGP, which is outdoors, right? So they live riding outdoors, where the US the whole season, and during the off seasons, they take time off the bike, but it's essentially just motocross. They don't have Supercross where we bounce back and forth. So for a long time, we did win. I won 4 in a row every time I went. And then we went through a couple years of some bad runs. We didn't win. And I think they won a couple years ago, finally again. But it's the trend has changed. When I started going, even in 06, 07, 08, and the years that I went, you'd have some guys running cue ball helmets, there's just a white or a black, just no painted helmet. Well, now the whole thing's changed. Like, you go over there, they look like us, or they have their own riding style, but they all look sick. Where before it wasn't really like that. They weren't as progressive as we were, but now they're, if not more progressive than we are.
Yeah, for sure. Out of all the years racing, who did you hate racing the most? Like, when you come up on someone, or like...
I would have to say a couple. Barsha was one of them.
Yep.
Just rode very erratically on the track. Jay Loffer is another one in the lights class. We never got to race in the 450 class, but he was always had run-ins with him. I can remember Hangtown. It was the first national. We just got done with Supercross. We'd kind of had some beef going on in Supercross, but then we went out there. I ended up wheeling my bike into his face. We got into a fight. He got docked and I think fined and got last gate pick. And I was able to, I left that unscathed.
That was literally my next question.
Yeah. How did that go? How'd that play out?
Yeah. Because I remember, like, at the time, like, I think Lawrence was maybe staying on our street or right afterwards, but I remember him just being like, fuck Villopoto. You know what I mean? Like, just hated you. And I was just like, I would see you guys, like, every time you guys would get on the track together, just that look of just like, I'm gonna kill you. It's what it seemed like.
I think so. Look, I think for me, I didn't really have a ton of like real beef or like, hey, I'm gonna go out and cause issues. Like, I think if I would have had that mentality, Mitch wouldn't have been stoked.
Yeah, 100%. Mitch is like a cutthroat, like, get here, do your job.
Exactly. Like, it's all business with him, right? And his goal is to win as many races and also win championships. Yeah. So if I were to get mixed up in that, and I did a couple little things, but it was more coming from Jason, like, he would start it and then I would kind of have to, at that point, I have to get involved.
Yeah, you can't get punked out. Like,
yeah, exactly. So, and he was always cool with that. It's like, but I didn't really have anybody that I really hated, per se. But moto's weird, as you know. It's not like freestyle. It's not like surf, skate, snow, where on the track you might be, or during the comp you're fighting for win. Doesn't matter who's your buddy or not.
Yeah.
But afterwards you come off the track, you guys are come off the slopes or whatever it is. You come off and you're like kind of boys.
Yeah.
Moto's not like that, dude.
No.
You go down onto the floor of a Supercross, it's like you barely look at the dude.
Yeah, that was the thing too. Like
it's more like, I guess, would be like boxing or MMA.
Yeah, well, a lot of the surfers are like that too. Like,
really?
Surf their break. Like a lot of, if they don't like you, what I mean. And all those dudes train jiu-jitsu and MMA. Like, so they're all like gnarly fighters.
Yeah.
But like moto, I always felt like freestyle. There was like always a couple guys that like I didn't really like.
Yeah.
But there was so many of us that would practice together every day. Like me, Nate Adams, Trevor Vines, Clifford, like the whole militia. Like, so we would always be helping each other and giving each other tips. And then we would look at you guys like someone would like break a finger, but no one would talk about it. Like when we would get hurt, we're like, hey, fucking broke my arm again. You know what I mean? Like you guys are just like quiet. Don't want anyone to know. Like you stay in your circle and that's basically it.
Which that's exactly how it was, coming up. I think it's getting a little bit more available to where you kind of get, and like Ricky will say it on the broadcast when he announces, he goes, if you don't tell me as the athlete, hey, I'm sick or I have an issue or I, pop my shoulder out or whatever, he goes, and you put in a shit performance on Saturday, he goes, I don't know that. So I'm going to call you out and tell you that, like, dude, you just did terrible. Or, that was just a bad, a complete off night and it falls on you. But if you give you the information, then I'd be like, hey, he put in actually a pretty strong performance with an issue, with a broken finger or a hurt shoulder or whatever, that's where I think it's different. It is starting to change. But yeah, to your point is like, we would keep everything secret, sick, everything you had, just keep it under wraps. Cause we didn't want to give the next competitor, an angle on us.
Yeah, exactly. Which I used to be like, oh, that's stupid. But like when I actually sat back and thought about it, I'm like, I get it. You don't want anyone having an upper hand on you or knowing anything.
And I think that started kind of with Ricky, cause you had like the early late 90s of like MC and all of those dudes come up and they all kind of partied and hung out and did the deal. And then when Ricky started and changed it with Eldon,
it was just business.
It was like, bam, it became a business and it became like, essentially racing the Tour de France. Like we're training, riding, and that's what it is. Which
worked for him.
It did. And it worked for me and it works for a lot of guys, but you got to have fucking thick skin.
Was that like the transition point where they became athletes? Is that where you feel like that's where they started considering themselves like full athletes?
They were always considered athletes, I think, from everyone's eyes. But I think then when Alden came in, it was just like, this is the program that's going to win. Because who was he with before? He was with
the first in the moto was Ricky.
The first one. Yes. But before that, he was with road bike dudes, right?
Oh yeah. He was himself. He used to race cross country, mountain bikes and things like that. And I think he might have worked with some pedal bike guys.
Yeah.
But essentially, he came over, and that's where he kind of that's where he started his career, was with RC.
And instantly, who better to start it with? It was literally just like it worked out perfect for
it did. And I had a chance to hire him too after James had basically fired him, or they were parting ways, and it was either going to be me or Dunge. And it was like a lot of money to hire him. It was I paid him $300,000 for the year.
No way.
Yeah, to be just to be my guy, right?
When you were on lights still?
No, that was 2010, I think. First year is when I hired him. After I blew my tib, fib, and ankle all apart.
Yep.
I was laid up on the couch, and Paggio called me from Oakley. He goes, "Hey, James just let Eldon go." He goes, "I'm giving you the inside line now," and I already knew it was going to be me or Dunge.
Yeah.
But I also knew Dunge wasn't. I knew it was going to be hard for him to part with that much money.
Yeah.
I just know the way he thinks and how he just,
that's crazy.
Runs himself, and for me, I was just like, okay, well, what's it going to be? I knew I could win. I'd already won, I think, races prior to that. So I already knew I could win.
Yeah.
And I just figured, dude, I make $100,000 a night, if not more. I got to win 3 races and I pay him off.
Exactly. You're like, I can do that. No problem.
And there's 17 races in Supercross and there's 12 outdoors. So it's pretty easy to do the math.
That's how you justify it.
That's how I justify it. Yeah.
That's a nice business mathematical.
Dude, it is
put together. Like
100%.
Like even when I would go buy a dozer, right? Like I can buy a brand new dozer when I was racing, 120,000 or whatever. But I found myself a nice used one with low hours on it.
Oh, that's a heat race win.
It was $60,000. And I said, well, if I win tonight, I'm going to buy it on Monday.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. Like I could have bought 3 of them throughout, what it doesn't matter, but that was my carrot essentially.
Yeah. It's good. It's smart.
You have the same approach?
No, I grew up with nothing. So when I started making money, I spent everything. I had fun, and all my buddies around me had fun. So
that's cool.
That's good. I mean, it's just different. You know, I think like listening to that and seeing all of, even seeing how the guys are kind of racing and doing things differently than when I did it. I look back and I should have tried to have more fun.
Yeah.
And do, you know, maybe spend a little more money here or there or whatever, just to kind of keep me rolling, keep me going for a longer career.
Yep.
But I also look at it too. I was like a one-track mind. Like I couldn't go out and race Saturday night, fly home Sunday morning early. You know, and a lot of times we were East Coast in Florida, outside Orlando. So some of the flights were only an hour 30. So we were home like right away.
Yeah.
You know, I see these guys going out on the boat on Sunday. Well, I couldn't do that because I couldn't be ready for Monday. Like I woke up hungover without having beers, meaning I was just tired. Like,
yeah, dude, it's a long. Supercross is a long day outdoors. It's a long day. You know what I mean? Like you're drained.
So I'm jealous of some of these guys that can do it. Like Kenny, for a perfect example, Kenny.
I saw you talking about that not long ago. And my question was going to be like, do you think if you would have had more fun while you were racing, like you would have raced a couple of years more?
I think I needed to switch teams. That was the biggest thing. I needed to switch my whole program up. Not my trainer and not the people around me, but go to a new brand for new goals. And then also too, when I had come into racing, I think I was hired at Mitch at like just to turn 18. And then I was 09, I went 450 for the first year.
Yep.
So, but I was Kawasaki all the way from 2003. So amateurs up to my first 3 years in lights and then 450. So all those guys on the factory team basically watched me develop and grow up. Yeah. So when I moved to the 450 team,
you already knew all those dudes. They all knew you. Like, and
it was more, I don't want to use the word father figure, but even now I go see Big B, right? Yeah. And we still have the same relationship. Like I'm the kid and he's the truck driver, right? And we still joke and do all that. But I think that would have been different because I would have been a little bit older, even at 24, 25, if I would have switched. Then I could have come in and demanded more. Not that I would have said a demand, hey, I want this and this and this, but I could have, when I needed to get something done, I could have got it done. Where before it was more like, no, I don't think you need to do it like that. You should do it like that. Like where, you know, I think if I would have come in and switched at a little bit older age, I think they would have had more respect. Yeah. Not that the guys at Cowie didn't.
No, I just think too, like when you see the same people, you're riding the same bike, you see the same color fender every day. Like when you switch that up and you start seeing new faces in your pit and like,
it's fun. It's cool.
It's cool. It's like it's like you started over again. You're like, all right, let's figure this bike out now and let's go do the same thing I did on the last bike. Like, and it's cool, like seeing like with Sexton moving, Roxon on a Suzuki that hasn't changed in the last 25 years, winning races still. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Kenny's having the most fun right now.
I think so. I mean, look, I think I don't think him getting fifth is necessarily that fun. No. But I also think I know he starts the season hoping to win a championship, right? Yep. But I also see with having two kids and being in the position he's in, he does our Supercross racing here, so for Feld, and then he'll jump in and do World Supercross too, and you know, like I think that's at his age and where he's at, you know, being 30, 31, and he can pick and choose, and he's got World Supercross paying him a bunch of money to go over there. Yep. And then he jumps into here, and then he might jump into a couple outdoor races. He's kind of got like the if you call it the best of both worlds, being able to still race, but not have that factory team pressure that you get from having to produce. That's why they hire you. That's why they pay you the money.
Better win.
Exactly. So, and some guys don't do well with that kind of pressure for that long, you know?
So like you said, some people don't, but some people do. And I thought it was cool too last year when he was just like sitting on the couch and he posted a video like, I think I'm going to race outdoors next weekend. And then he came out and like whole shot and like was just
dude, and he led half the moto.
Yeah. And we're just like, this dude's straight off the couch. Like he's been riding Supercross, but he ain't motocross testing. No. You know what I mean? So it's cool to see dudes do that again. Like, yeah.
I just think because we have a couple different platforms now to race on, and I know Feld, like for instance, like the Eli, the Jetson, and all the main dudes. Look, the manufacturers have them contracted to race here, that's where the big cash is, right? That's where they're selling, and that's where they should. That's where like Jet shouldn't do the World Supercross or bounce around like that. Yeah, he's a championship guy. Where I think, and is also young, and it's the beginning of his 450 career. But Kenny kind of on his call it way out. Yep. I think he's doing it the right way.
100%.
Yeah. One thing I look at, even when you talk about the way you looked at business and then how you're looking at these riders in their career, you are like, I would say like one of the godfathers of like this action sports, out of the box moto rider persona. And you're like one of the most like clean cut, you know, rookie of the year, you know, 6 on the all time 250, 6 on the all time 450. The win list, like you have the pedigree as like what you would say, like a clean cut, top of the line professional driver. What is the biggest dynamic or difference in culture between tricks, like the trick game and like the racing game for riders?
These dudes have to be 100% A game every single time they touch their bike. We don't really have to. Like there's certain tricks that are gnarly, but like going through the whoops every lap, every single day is like, that is super dangerous. Like hitting rhythm sections, going 3-3, you know, like I feel like there's a lot more room to get hurt racing supercross or outdoors than freestyle.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, like take nothing away because I would never, I mean, I barely jump a freestyle ramp in general, you know, like
Which blows my mind because he's one of the baddest dudes I've ever seen
like,
ride a bike.
I will, but I won't, I would never hit one on my own. Like I went out to Todd Potter's place one time out there in Menifee and I'm like, I'll follow you off of them, but I can't judge my speed because we're used to, you know, racing something as fast as possible and scrubbing off speed, where these dudes all come in like slow, and then they get their speed right. And they're like right off the takeoff, where we're opposite, like come in as fast as you can and then scrub it all off.
Yeah.
So judging of speed, I wasn't very good at that. So, but I think that, you know, like, yeah, doing the triples, the whoops, it's an ever changing landscape too. You know, like we just watched Seattle, you know, the ruts were like literally foot peg deep around the entire track.
The whole rhythm section. You look down one lane, there's 37 different ruts.
Yeah. And some of them are too deep to hit. If you hit it with the speed, you're going to drag the foot pegs and you're going to go over the bars. So like you have to be, there's a lot of things that, that are never, it's even like go to MotoGP, use that as an example. Like that's super gnarly doing over 200 miles an hour, but the asphalt really doesn't change. Now the temperature of the asphalt may change and the tires change and things like that. We deal with the tires falling apart along with the track falling apart. You know, just, we have multiple things that are happening all at once. So yeah, I think it's, I wouldn't say it's, more gnarly than freestyle, but it can be.
Yeah. I feel like when freestyle crashes happen, it's pretty gnarly crashes, but a lot of these dudes crashes are like high speed, or like when they like, say you get kicked over the bars, you're going face first into another face that's just coming to a dead stop, where we just like tumble and roll depending on the circumstances.
There's not a jump after it. So you're going freestyle ramp to freestyle ramp and it's really close.
Yeah. You know? So it's like from us always looking in, we're like, dude, these dudes are bad. Like they're gnarly. Like I watch Supercross and motocross every single weekend I can. Like growing up as a little kid, my deal was I want to be like Jeremy McGrath. I'm going to race Supercross. And then somehow I just ended up riding freestyle and running into Brian Manley and Milo Myers at the time. And they're like, hey, we're going to do freestyle. We'll pay you $300 a month to run SMP. And I'm like, told my dad, he went down home, tore every track down and built me jumps. And I just started jumping.
Really?
Yeah. It was like the most fun I ever had. Like my whole career has just been fun. You know, there was times where I got off track and did some stupid shit, but I feel like being a kid who's making money, figuring life out.
Yeah, no, that's completely opposite of us. Like, you know, look at the Loretta's kids, and it's even evolved so much from when I came up. I'm 35 now.
It's gnarly.
Like these kids that are on 50s right now that are 8 years old.
With a semi.
They already have, the parents or, you know, the manufacturers, they already have the eye on this kid at 8 years old, and they're going to bring him up and groom him to be that next, you know, Jet Lawrence or Jeremy McGrath or Ryan Villopoto. So they already have like a plan for them. So essentially, like even though they're not getting paid, they still have the same as a little kid. You know, like I have 7-year-old kids now, and they're twin boys, and it's like I would do it a little bit differently because I've lived it and been there.
Yeah.
But some of these guys that haven't, and these parents that are like, these kids essentially have been pros from 8 years old.
Yeah.
So before they've even collected a real paycheck to themselves, essentially at 16 is when you can turn pro. They've already been pro for like 12, 13, 14, 15 years, you know, on the way up, because they've dealt with the winning and the losing of the pressure and showing up and having a shitty race at Loretta's and losing a title or a bike breaking. They deal with all of that at a young age, where we deal with it essentially also once you turn pro, you deal with the same thing.
What age did you start making money racing?
I started getting paid, I believe, like, not under the table, but essentially it would go for, hey, here's money for fuel and parts and things like that and bikes. I would say around 13, 14 was when I got picked up I went from Yamaha to Team Green in 2003, I think was my first year for Team Green.
It's crazy hearing some of the amateur deals that kids are getting nowadays where you're like, dang, already? Like, that's pretty good,
Yeah.
So, like you said, they've had their eye on them since they were 8 years old. They know this is going to be the next prodigy. Like, we better start investing now before somebody else does and takes them away from us.
But I also think too, it's you got to be careful. You see a lot of these kids getting burnt out really early, or turning pro, and then they're just flat. They don't have any of that. It's basically their cherry got popped so early.
They already peaked.
And that's something that I think that and that doesn't happen to everybody, but you can see it every now and then. It's like this kid, he's already got all the free shit. He's getting paid. He's got the big rig. Like there's nothing to look forward to. Like when I turned pro, like I went to Loretta's right before, and I can remember riding my Loretta's bike, and I was like, oh, this thing's pretty good. And then right after that, I went to Glen Helen. I flew back to California, went to Glen Helen, and I got to ride the race bike for Mitch. Factory brakes. It was a full factory motorcycle that Mitch built, and it was substantially, night and day different and better than what I was riding. Like I think I went out, first lap crashed because of the power of the front brake. Because it's a factory brake. And I'm like, dude, I've been having to squeeze my production bike, the front brake really, really hard. Well, you get on this one, you barely touch it. And it's just like, I crashed.
How was that transition going from amateur to like straight factory ride?
It actually went really well for me. Some guys it doesn't. I don't know why I progressed or why it progressed so quickly. I had enough to go racing. I didn't have the best equipment. I didn't have, the best rig or this or that. I had to work for it. My dad built houses. That's what he did. He was a spec builder up in Washington, and every dime he made went into racing. And I can remember him now, telling me, he goes, I can fucking sell everything and we can have a boat and I'll have a new car and mom will have a new truck or whatever. And we'll have all this shit and we can go do a lot of cool stuff. And he was like, well, do you want to quit? And I was like, no, I don't want to quit, but all of our money went to racing, the whole, everything.
I think it's cool when you hear that story of parents doing that for their kids, but then sometimes you get that kid that just takes it for granted and then never really succeeds, but the parent put a second mortgage on the house, sold that.
That's one thing my dad never did. He never sold the farm, right? Yeah. The backup, there was always a backup, right? Like he never overextended himself to go racing or buy or get shit that was out of reach. We always had good stuff, but it wasn't the best.
Yeah. I feel like too, sometimes it's like almost the parent living through their kid, pushing them so hard to where those are the kids that kind of get burnt out on it and they get over it. And then they hate their parents afterwards when it's like, I feel like we all got into riding motorcycles because it was fun. It was something for me to do with my dad and my grandparents. You know what I mean? Like I went to the desert for every single holiday since I was a little kid. That's all I remember.
Yeah.
Every holiday pick, Thanksgiving, Christmas, it's at the desert, So it's hard to, it sucks to see parents do that, but
here's the other thing. I look at if I didn't get my ass chewed or if I didn't, I'd never be sitting here right now.
Yeah.
And I think my kids' generation and even the teens now, they don't even know what really hard work is, or to get fired, or to get chewed. You show up to work late. I tell my kids now, they're only 7, right? And I'm like, I can't wait till you show up. Whatever you do, whatever it is, if you race, you do whatever. But if you actually have a job and you show up late, you're fucking out of here, bro. Like you're gonna get fired.
Yep.
They don't do it anymore, right? Like it's a lot. It's a lot. Our everything is way more laxed than
soft.
Soft. Yeah.
We're in a soft era for sure.
Yeah, we are.
So I see a lot of potential coming out, or a lot of like my kids, for example, 7. Like I think they're gonna, if they have a little bit of work ethic and know how to do stuff, especially do stuff with their hands.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of potential to come up and make money and do cool things.
And that's on the parent guiding them the right way. You know what I mean? Like I see kids nowadays where the parents just let them do whatever. And I just, in my head, I'm like, a kid's never going to do anything with his life. Like he's content where he's at,
And the iPad, they'll live behind a screen.
Yeah. You're telling me, did you have a North Star or someone that you looked at in terms of like, hey, this is the roadmap, like you, your family? Like I could tell you have a very respectful and humble attitude when you talk about your family and the support you got, but did you have a roadmap or someone that you looked towards, like for inspiration of where you wanted to go?
So my grandpa, right, he is still alive today. He's the one that got it all started. He's like 85, 86. Used to race dirt bikes, got my dad into it. And then it's so on. It kind of, the fourth generation is us, me and my brother. Being that we were based in Washington State, there wasn't a lot, it wasn't like Southern California, right? Where you could just go to the local track and you could find either a trainer or get to watch MC or this guy, whoever's riding. Like later in my early teens, 14, 15, we would come down here and ride 12, 13, 14, and we could see some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But no, it's basically my mom and dad, my dad knew what it took to do it. He was a logger. He
hardworking.
He
man.
was, the shit they came up and did and grew up, how they did it was real man shit, you know? So he knew what it take to do that. And he was actually a local pro at one time, when he raced. So, and he did it while working, right? So he knew what it took to do it. Now he didn't have all the answers. And that's where I think, especially when we started butting heads like teenagers do, like I'm not listening to my dad. Yeah. My dad went and hired Randy Lawrence, right? And then
he knew how to get to you.
Yes. So my dad would go through, Randy, I need you to tell him to do this. And then Randy would come over here and tell me to do this. And I didn't know, I knew that they would talk and whatever else. But essentially what he wanted done, he would pass to Randy and Randy would execute it.
It's funny because my wife used to do the same thing with when I was training with Randy. Hey, tell him he looked really good out there today. Like he when he gets compliments, he rides way better. She'd be like, Randy, tell him this, tell him that. And I was just like, you really used to do that? She's like, every weekend you had a contest. I'm like, damn. Huh. So I didn't really look good. I just mentally felt good because he told me I looked good.
Yeah. So I mean, so roadmap. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it now when the question you just asked about roadmap, everything's so readily available through Instagram or training facilities, or
you see it all.
You see it all, right? When I came up, there was none of that, right? It was.
You had zero social media, right? When
you
started?
I think. Yeah. When did 06 come, or when did Instagram essentially pop up? 06,
I think
05?
the main thing was like on Facebook when you didn't need the email anymore. You didn't need like a college email. You could make your own, and then everybody transitioned from MySpace to Facebook. That was like my freshman year of high school. I was like 2005.
Exactly. So 05, 06 was kind of like, and then Instagram was kind of born out of that, right? I was already pro at that point. Yeah. So the roadmap to there.
You already did all the work.
The work was already done, and it was done basically sight unseen. You didn't really know. You just thought you were doing what was appropriate.
Yeah.
You gave an interesting perspective about social media when you were talking with Shex.
Yeah.
But in terms of you and coming from someone who's a lot more clean cut in terms of having to work with sponsors too. How do you look at social? I mean, you didn't really need it, but like, how do you look at that for what's going on in today's time?
Well, I think if perfect example, like it wasn't really used as a business platform for the first, I don't know how many years, 3 to 5 years,
Yeah.
And then it transitioned into like essentially a business platform, and
like no deliverables in your contract. Well, that's part of social.
That's kind of like what helped me. Like when I was done riding contests, probably like around 2010, I remember going to all my sponsors. I'm like, hey, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to hire a full-time filmer. I'm going to go on these road trips.
Yep.
I'm going to be posting on Instagram, YouTube. Like if you want to be a part of it, cool. If not, all good. I get it. It's different territory, Wow. And all my sponsors stuck with me, and I got to make a living going out and having fun every day on my bike, just riding in the hills, shoveling stuff, messing with my buddies, throwing up funny clips. Yeah. And it was my job.
Yeah. So that, for example, like Jet, being that Instagram's, I'm using him, Jet Lawrence as an example, like that being a platform now, he's 18. It was the business side of Instagram's already been around for many, many, many years. Yeah. So, when you got the Jetson code drops and you got, all these people kind of collabs coming in, now that wasn't around when I was around, like it's even like, hey, let's do RV t-shirts.
When you were at Volcom, I remember.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. If that would have been, if we knew what we knew about Instagram and marketing and everything, how they could have leveraged all of that in my career. Wow. Like, I might have a brand even still sustaining today if it's clothing or whatever the 100%. Case may be. I just caught the wave was already it already had beached, right? It was it was coming back into the water. Where now it's like, dude, like Jets and all these guys, they have platforms to build a brand for after the career. That's where I'm kind of like looking at it. Like if that was around, and I don't know if I could have done it or would have done it, just because, like I said, I was a one-track mind and it was race. But if you have a good group around you that can facilitate, like, hey, we're going to do these drops. We're going to do this. Like you have a huge following.
Post it so we sell it.
Yeah, exactly. And you get these plans together. I think it's a huge, huge benefit if you're good.
Yeah. Tell me if you remember this day. I remember you were basically on your farewell tour. You were getting ready to go to Europe and you came out and you went and rode the hills with me and Hanson. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
We got chased by the cops and
that little outdoor track.
Yeah. I remember getting back to the house and you going, man, I've never put I never put my leg over my bike to have fun. It's always been to go faster. And I remember just sitting there like, wow, he never rode to just go have fun. Like this is what I do every single day. And I remember you saying like how much fun you had that day with all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, no, business, like we were always taught how if you're on the motorcycle, you're executing, you're trying to go get better. It's like if you're in the ring, you're there for a reason. Yeah. It's not there you're not just going to stand there and get hit for the fun of it. Right. So that's kind of how I looked at it. And even now it's tough. Like, to go out and like to go ride. I see you guys go ride all the time. And I'm like, the last thing I want to do is kind of go out and ride laps around a track. If it's a hill track, it's one thing. And if you go out and ride and have fun like that, that stuff is intriguing to me and like off-road stuff. That's what's great about the Yamaha thing. I'll go do a side-by-side event over here. I'll go do a T7 event in Colorado and go and just see different things because I'm 35, but I never got to live that, call it college or high school,
the fun era,
the fun part of when you're kind of like screwballs, you know, and when you can afford to do that, I couldn't afford to do it because I was already pro. So like my teenage years are now at 35.
So crazy to look at the career though, like the trajectory. Cause most people, like you said, like you're like built in, like you are literally, you're there to race, you're there to win and nothing else. It really, I can't say it for you, but it feels like you didn't get the experience of like living in that moment for a second.
No, not at all. I don't know how I could have done it differently. Some to the point of just taking it all in and having more fun. And that's I guess it's the downfall of any professional sport is you're only as good as your last race or you're only as good as your last fight, right? It's like you get mentality. You get punished and you lose a fight and it's like, okay, you're back in the gym on Monday once you're recovered, let's call it, and you're thinking of the next thing. Or if you won a fight or you won a Supercross, it's like, okay, well, Monday everything got erased what just happened on Saturday because there's 17 in a row.
Yeah, it's a new week.
And then if it's, you might win round one, round two you lose. Well, they're all talking about who won round two, not round one, right? So it's like you have such a short time to be able to reflect on that. And that's kind of the downfall, I think. But like I said, there's a lot of guys doing it better now. Kenny, Jet. Yeah. A lot of the younger guys are I feel like are doing a better job at it. But also I see faults in the careers too. Like not so much Jet at this point. But like, I see inconsistency in the racers. Mm-hmm. You go back and look at pull just 17 rounds of myself and Dunge. We might be off the podium once. Yeah. One year I won 11 races. At a 17, which is gnarly, which is so gnarly to think about.
It's a lot of hard work.
Jason Anderson, for example, he won a championship 3 or 4 or 5 years ago now. It's been a little bit of time when he was on Husky. He only won 3 races that year. Yeah. 3 races.
He was just consistent.
He was consistent, but it wasn't like, it wasn't like consistency. It was like, okay, won 3 races and then he might be a 3rd and get some fists and maybe the worst is like an 8th, and they would kind of all stick there, but everybody was kind of flopping around. That's what made it inconsistent. Whereas like you turn around, you pull off the gate, you turn around, I'm leading and I bet your ass Dunge is in second. I look off the triple, Dunge is in second. Yeah. So, and that's only 3 points per weekend. So it becomes really hard when you have guys that are super consistent to get points gaps and points leads.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a completely different dynamic from what we see today.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, in the ranking system for sure.
Not taking anything away from them. I personally think, it's not much different than when I raced. Our bikes were still fuel injected. Our bikes were still putting out almost 60 horsepower. The tracks were still kind of all beat up. It's kind of the same thing. It will come to on time. It hasn't yet, where my era of racing is not even in the conversation, right? Like if you go back and we can talk MC, like the 90s is in early 2000s you can't bring that in conversation into Jet's career right
No, because those fans have no clue what happened back then.
No, and it's 2-strokes. It's carbureted bikes.
Yep.
You know, like the speeds were slower.
Yep.
I feel like I'm still kind of in that window of like where you can compare or relate to current to, because I only retired in 14 from Supercross.
He's saying that I feel in like a little bit of energy, almost like he's entertaining a comeback.
No, I don't think so. Zero chance.
Like he's saying that almost as if like he's trying to let the internet know something.
I have too much fun now.
Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, I have too much fun now. Yeah,
I was gonna say once you retired, like once you like did your retirement, I feel like you got way cooler overnight.
Totally.
Instantly, like drinking beers all the time, cigarette in your mouth, just like just joking around and having fun. Because I feel like you guys have so much pressure on yourself that like you can't like relax and be yourself and have fun because you're always like, who's gonna take a picture of me doing this and turn it into one of my sponsors and get me fired? You know,
a little bit of that. I think it's. I mean, that's never really happened. But yes, as when you ride for any one of these manufacturers, they have an image to uphold, right? And it's more of a clean cut image, and they want you to kind of live inside the box. That's what I kind of hate about. I hate our podium speeches today.
Yeah.
And I was one of them. I was one of the guys that lived inside the box.
It's like a robot.
Yep, exactly. You say your sponsors, thank your sponsors. Well, it's like, dude, everything's plastered on your jersey. They know what bike you just got off.
Yes.
It's a Honda, it's a Yamaha, it's a Suzuki, whatever it is. They just watched you win the race. They know what gear you're wearing.
They know every one of your sponsors.
They know all of that shit already, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a good story of what happened, you know? And I think that also it falls back onto the one asking the question, you know? Like,
and I feel like the team too, sometimes they're making the guys go to like school to figure out how to speak to people in public or on a podium. It's like, to me, it was like whenever I got like, oh, you want to thank anyone? I'm like, no, they know who they are. They know who they all are.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're wearing it, you know? So
I think that needs to I still think needs to get better, you know? I think Jet does a decent job. He doesn't ever really thank a ton of his sponsors, you know?
Cooper Webb's this last week was the best. Like he said, my arms were so harder than morning wood. Like you would never hear that on a podium in your era.
I heard he was going to get his hand slapped for that is what I heard.
I love when after the weekend, he'll post like a dump of like 10 photos and it'll be like his fine from the weekend, his trophy from the weekend. Like just being himself. And I feel like when you have more of a personality and you show it, you gain way more fans because you're more relatable.
Look at AP, for example. Like, you know,
probably the most marketable dude in Supercross motocross.
100%. And I said that, like, I'm like, yeah, is he a true cowboy? I mean, I guarantee you he's playing up that a little bit.
Yeah.
But that is who he is. He's a free rolling, you know, like wears the cowboy hat, really he's a cool guy like that. And that's what I think, you know, he's creating a brand for himself right 100%. Now with that.
We do all of his merch. And
yes, I've seen. Yeah,
every weekend, or if he's winning a heat race, boom, bunch of sales come in. If he wins the main, if he crashes, bunch of sales. You know what I mean? Like
depending on what he says on the podium.
Exactly. He's so relatable to so many different people, and I feel like his personality is just like everyone gets it. Like, oh, he's having fun. Like, and everyone loves to be a part of fun.
Yeah. No, totally. So I like what he's doing. You know, I think he's doing a good job at it, and there's a few others out there that are too.
Yep.
When you look at the career though, like to retire at 26, it's such a young age. Like,
dude, it is.
Like you're still in your prime. I mean, you're still in your prime right now. How old are you right now? 34,
35. Yeah, 35.
I mean, that's crazy. You could literally get on a bike and still do damage right now.
Yeah, I mean, in theory.
So like, there's got to be something there, right?
Dude, I mean, look, I went out and rode yesterday at Glen Helen, and believe me, you ain't catching me out behind a gate unless it's for like kind of fun. 2-stroke national,
like some
coming
fast
up.
House stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Fast House 2-stroke national that was supposed to be this weekend, but canceled it because of the rain. But yeah, and here's the other thing: my ego is this big. Like if anybody's like, "Oh, RV's on the line" or whatever, it's like, you know, or I get on the line. I'm like, dude, I'm totally cool with running around in 10th.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. I'm just here to
have fun and drink a couple beers afterwards.
Yep.
Make my sponsors happy, have a good time, and be there for. And that's, I think, it being so accessible now. You know, like a lot of people like,
yeah,
because I've heard like in the past, like, you know, like, dude, you look like you were unapproachable. You know, when I was racing, and maybe you know, I probably was to some people.
Yeah,
and I can remember. So I think it was for somebody for swap. It was Anton just had gotten hired, and I always gave Don a bunch of shit, and also Mathis, you know, when they'd come in to get interviews in the truck, and I guess I think it was Anton came in, and he's like, "Hey, Don sent me over to get an interview," and I told him to get the fuck out of the truck. And he literally started crying like afterwards.
That's so funny. He's cool as hell. I love Anthony.
Yeah, but like he didn't know. And I'm kind of like have a little bit of a dry sense of humor.
And unless people hang out with you and know or hear of it, like you wouldn't think that, you know?
Yeah. And I'm just kind of straight to the point too. Like I'll shit with the bathroom door open in the semi, you know, like all the time. I was like, hey, Big B, what are you cooking? You know, and I'm on the toilet, you know, and that's kind of how I rolled. Inside the truck, it was a lot of fun.
It was your safe zone. You could do whatever you wanted in there and no one could see it.
Yes. Yeah. So but no, I definitely can't come back and race, and you know, other than for fun.
It's crazy to me too, because like you see dudes like you retire so early, and then you see them like done coming back. Like I feel like sometimes when you retire too early, it's like you almost miss it.
It's hard, dude.
You know,
I mean, it honestly, like, I still struggle with certain days, you know, just being bored.
Yeah.
You know,
you're so used to working your ass off and reaping the benefits on the weekend and holding the trophy up. Like,
yep. And then it's like, drop the kids out at school, 8:30. So from 8:30 to 3, you know, it's like, you know, like, what do I do? You know, it's like, okay, fuck, I'm going to start a business. Well, that just, you know, how do you start a business in today's world? It's like, it's pretty gnarly because everything is so saturated.
You better have a plan, and it better be something that people need.
And you better have some decent sized funding behind it. Yeah. You know, just to number one, get out in front, and then you need to sustain that.
Yeah.
You know, sustain, you know, the growth. So, it's like real estate. You know, you start to think, you know, like, oh, I'm going to do this after I'm in the scenario, and it's like, I'm racing, and it's like, oh, when I'm retired, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. And then you actually get out into the real world and you're like, dude, it's not that easy.
Yeah. I miss racing. It was actually fun.
It was way easier than, you know, juggling life now and kids, you know, everything was taken care of. You had a schedule, you know, so it definitely, but I've engulfed myself obviously in what you know, like my kids and what they do. Right. Yeah. So, and then I still do the Yamaha stuff, but no, it is, I still have, you know, I could totally see how outside influence or drinking or this or that could totally infiltrate, you know, somebody like that's retires at 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, even at 35 now. I'm still really young and I need something to do.
It's cool though to see, because like you did a good job of like letting that go. Like you said, when you're on the line now, your ego's this big. You're like, I don't care if this intermediate kid or expert kid smokes me right now. Like I'm here to have fun. And I feel like it's hard for a lot of athletes to like let that guard down and let that actually happen. Cause that's kind of like how I am, where people are like, oh, you're going to ride a contest? I'm like, fuck, no, I ain't right. I'm 42, bro. Yeah. I've already lived that dream. Like, I'm just having fun. Like Vicky, Taka, like all those dudes, they ride my house every single day. And like certain days I'll be like, I ain't riding. And certain days I'll wake up and I'm like, damn, they're having fun. I'm gonna go have some fun right now. And I'll go down, ride a little bit, go to the shop, pack orders, like go pick up the kids from school, take them to golf. Like I make myself have fun with everything that I do. And now like when I throw my leg over my bike, it's literally because I want to do it and I want to have fun.
Yeah.
What was the relationship with you guys like growing up? I know you had a lot of different unique times in your career where you came into being a different person and kind of, you know, transforming your career. But what was the relationship in terms of you guys like as friends?
Our Randy Lawrence, like he was training him and Nick Way and I think Weimer at the time.
Yep.
And that's kind of like when I started taking it serious and I wanted to ride, we got speed and style. And I always loved riding Supercross. Like anytime I had a chance to jump on someone's Supercross track or moto, like I always loved doing it. So I remember we rented out Chatfield's track that one year and I would go out there and ride with them like 2-3 days a week, you know? So, and that's kind of like how I got to know RV right here.
Yeah. And then it's also too, like I can go at Randy's cabinets, right? Like even before, like I think speed and style, like Twitch brought up my brother. You know, my brother used to race. Well, we had this dude buddy in Menifee that had like a gnarly pit bike track out in front, and we'd have all the freestyle guys would be over, and then you'd have a bunch of moto guys come over, and we had like this full pit bike deal. But so back then, everybody kind of lived pretty close together. Yeah, you know, and
everyone was in like Menifee.
You guys would ride down the street.
Yeah, we would ride there from our house.
Like, yeah, like it was. I mean, I think you can still do it now.
Yeah,
but
everything. I mean, like you would literally ride your bike to the track.
Yeah, well, it was like a track in somebody's yard, you know.
Oh, got it.
But like we would just take streets, cross the main road, take back road.
And it's still kind of like that, but it's definitely way more built up. Like if you go back and think about it.
It's crazy. Over by your old house by Roncadas and all that now, it's like houses everywhere, grocery stores. I'm like, wow, this is so different.
And it really wasn't that long ago. Can you imagine what it was like even before we kind of like started riding there?
And all them were staying in Canyon Lake. Like that was all riding areas to them.
All
like,
of it, yeah.
All the old crusty videos, Triple X, like even Metzger's house right behind Canyon Lake. Like there was so many different spots out there. There's still a couple of the little ones, like, but
I know it's not what it used to be anymore. And it's a bummer, you know, like, cause this used to be the Mecca. I was just talking to Mitch yesterday. I'm like, dude, what are you going to do with the race team? You know, like he goes, I don't know. Like either I need to find a piece of property here that I can do, but that's not 2 hours out from the shop.
Yeah.
Or we have to go move somewhere, like this used to be the place to be.
Now it's like you see like Yamaha, Star, they're back. They're at
the place to be now is Texas East.
Yeah. With a lot of travel too. Cause like you're pretty central right there for like all the dudes want to get home as quick as they can after the races to recover. What do you get? 1 day off?
1 day off. Yeah.
And it's not even a day off. It's a travel day.
Travel day. And then we'd have to, when I was training, we had to do a 25-minute run.
When you got home?
Yeah, I got home.
Yeah, like you don't even get to like just chill and like, fuck yeah, I won last night. You're like, nope, I'm chilling.
Keep the
I
blood
go on
moving.
a run. Like, yeah, like that's tough.
As you look at, like, you talk about even teams, like riding for different teams, what's the behind the scenes of that? Like having to learn a new bike or switching teams with new ownership. Is that hard? Was that difficult? Or?
Dude, that's a question I can't really answer because I never left.
Yeah. No, now you have a different bike, right?
I'm on a Yamaha now, but I'm more with the marketing side of it, right? So like, and also like, I'll sign a bike out at a Yamaha and go ride it, and I won't even half the time put bars on it.
But coming from where you're racing competitively and now you're doing it for fun,
the bikes are so good right now.
Yeah.
Like you literally
ride
can
it
take
stock.
it off the showroom floor and ride it. Where before you could not do that.
Got it.
Like when I just did my Yamaha deal, like right away, I literally the only thing I did is put handlebars on it.
Yep.
It's that ready to rock.
Yeah.
They're really, it's come a long ways.
All the bikes are pretty competitive right now.
So in the days of you at the height of winning, did you really have to sit there and really like finesse this thing to be the beast that it was?
The Kawasaki, like what was it? Like 13, 12, 13, 14, like that bike. Yeah. we cut the subframe quite a bit to
You're
lower it down.
also a short dude.
I was shorter. Yeah. So like I did a couple things to the motorcycle. But now it's like no longer of the cutting of the subframe and kind of getting the geometry of what you kind of like, what feels right underneath of you. It's come a long ways in that point. Cause there, before it's like, like back in when the 250F came out, when Mitch started it, racing that motorcycle, they were blowing transmissions up like 2 laps of a brand new transmission and 5, 6 of them at a time.
It's bad sometimes when like motor builders change parts. Like I remember there was faulty parts coming for a while or like bad gas, like just, and you see some dudes make a switch from like a Japanese bike to like an Austrian bike. And sometimes they gel with it and then sometimes they don't. It's like a completely different motorcycle for them, So it's definitely hard to adapt, but sometimes, like you said, like sometimes it's easy.
Yeah, it just depends. Like perfect example, Chase right now moving from factory Honda over to KTM.
Completely different bikes.
Aluminum frame versus steel frame, chromoly frame, and it's completely different. Yes, he has a win under his belt this year already, but I think there's a lot of things he's probably still struggling with. But here's the other thing: he's a past champion, and they hired him to win. So they also believe that you have the best product, you have the best chains, right?
Yeah.
Well, KTM thinks they have the best product, and that's tough for them to hear. Like, hey, this thing struggles here, or whatever. We need to make it better. Yeah. But that's what those race teams are for. They try to move as quick as they can.
Yeah. And they want, like you said, they want all their parts on the bike. They don't want a get ignition on their bike. Like when sometimes that could make the difference or be better, Like I remember hearing back in the day when KTM's was having problems like cutting out and stuff, like, but the dude from Austria had to come over to map the bikes. Like no one else could touch it. Like it gets really strict. Like there's a lot of restrictions on them.
Yeah. Even as like a business owner, we were talking about this earlier. Like if I were to look at the relationship you have with the business owner, say, and the team at Kawasaki, and then now Yamaha, one is, competitively racing and the whole world wants to know how fast you can go. And one is like, you're having fun drinking beers. There's got to be a different dynamic even now with the perception on how you work with brands. Cause now you do have social. How big of a business learning curve was that?
It was a learning curve. It was a learning curve for me for the first couple of years with Yamaha, for example, when I did my deal. We didn't really know each other. It was kind of like this weird dynamic. Like I was like, okay, yes, I'm
new kid in school.
I'm an ambassador, but like, and also I didn't know like how far I could like push things or, and then we kind of found this flow. And I also think that they like also the organic, and they liked how I will speak my mind, and I kind of bounce off the guardrails. Like I'm not so politically correct that I just sound like a robot. People like to hear what I have to say because I will say it and say some pretty good things sometimes, so or harsh things. But now I always say like, fuck man, my stock only goes up. I really can't do anything wrong.
No, you can't. Let's just keep it going.
Yeah. I always say my stock only going up.
Put the little emojis right here, please. I mean, even in terms of championships, Twitch, like how do you look at someone like him and then position him on like the Mount Rushmore of racing and racers in terms of just what he did as an athlete?
Man, he came in and literally he started winning right off the bat. Like, so for sure, definitely Mount Rushmore of Supercross, motocross. Like,
I think it's kind of funny. Like, I would say, be like probably the most underrated, you know, and I'm not I am speaking about myself, but it doesn't, like, I'm looking at it like, yeah, you see, oh, but this guy, but then you can go and read on all the comments. Like, I just posted something the other day, and majority of the people on there is like, how come he's not talked about more? And I don't know if it was my exit of how I exited and I went to Europe and I raced for a couple rounds over there and then broke my tailbone and then I was done. Or I don't really know what but I also think I don't drink the Kool-Aid, right? Like, I don't drink Feld's Kool-Aid. Not that they have a Kool-Aid, like I love working with them. I did some Race Day Live stuff and I just was on for Race Day Live and TV and stuff like that. So I'm a great step in like that. But yeah, it's I would say underrated for sure compared to some of the guys that are out there. You know, like for instance, like Chad. Like Chad is somebody that's brought up a lot. And I mean, if you look at like race wins, I think he might have more race wins than I do. But as for championships, he's only got 2 Supercross championships. I have 4.
Yeah.
I think he's got 1 or 2 outdoors. You know, and a total, I have 10 total, and I don't know. I don't know what he has, but essentially, yeah, a little bit underrated, I would say.
What's your favorite beer?
Favorite beer, if I am at any race, Coors Light for sure. That's kind of my go-to. Mitch, that's all he drinks.
Yep.
So before I was drinking, that's what was in the cooler. So that's kind of what I was brought up on was Coors Light.
I love that about Mitch too. Like if I need something, I'm like, hey, I need this. I'll just stop by with like a case of beer. Like, here you go. He goes,
bring some beer.
It's only 11 in the morning. I'm like, you'll drink them afterwards. I'll just take my parts and leave. Like he's cool about it.
Right,
it's rad.
yeah.
Would you drink during events?
Me? Yeah. No, afterwards for sure. But not during, never.
Would you drink after events?
Not till later in my career. Till later in my career, like already 450, like and even like second or third year, I was like, okay, now I need to, even during the week, we'd jam into Orlando and go get some pasta and wine where that really wasn't on the menu, you know?
Yeah.
Just to try to kind of like, you know, just do something that Eldon didn't know about.
Yeah.
You know, like felt like I was sneaking in something.
Wine.
Just make me felt better.
Wine,
yeah.
It made me feel better.
Yeah. Cause on your guys' like, you couldn't eat pasta, right? Or
not
or
supposed to.
Wine?
Yeah. No, not a lot of red meat.
Yeah. There's certain, like, dude, they had like full meals. Like this is what you eat. This is what
no,
you don't eat.
no table bread. No cheese, no red meat.
Wait, what? Who said you can't have table bread?
Alden, he's gnarly, dude.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Just trying to stay lean. Like I'm running around right now, at like 180 ish right now. Well, when I was racing, I was like, the lowest I got was 148.
Dang. On a 450.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
and
like
then I felt good at like 150. Like the best was 153.
Yep.
That's crazy. No table bread. I'd lose my mind.
Dude, cheese, like certain things. Like I remember Roxon would sneak out to go get ice cream. He's like, I'm going to get ice cream. Like, I don't care. Like,
yeah.
Oh, it's that gnarly, huh?
Yeah.
It is. And I think a lot of it's just to get the rider to just understand, like, hey, you know, like shock him. Right.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of introduce, like, that's like later, as I said, I would go to Orlando and grab some wine and pasta. Well, then you could reintroduce that stuff. You know,
they almost like scare it out of you.
But
for
it's
a
like,
little
it's
bit.
just like when you go put the bag on and you want to drop a bunch of weight.
Yeah.
That's essentially what he was trying to do. And then just build that into, you know, the program.
Yep.
I love it. As we get ready to wrap up here, first of all, I want to say thank you. Obviously,
thank you.
Twitch, phenomenal. You know, kicking off this little mini 4-part series with a bang. One of the best to ever do it.
Had to bring in RV for number 1, dude.
Yeah, the big time.
Yeah, Twitch don't play. When he said you were coming in, I go, damn, all right, we're doing this for real.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Before I let you go, I want to know what is next for you, and what can like kind of the audience and the people who are watching this Jaxxon podcast see
yeah,
from you?
just stay tuned. Obviously, with the Instagram on my page, Ryan Villopoto. Be going to Austin MotoGP. You going?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah. So I'm in for that this year. Motocross of Nations, I think I might be going to. And then some trips on Colorado with some T7 side-by-side stuff, Blue Crew events that Yamaha, that's the amateur side of Yamaha. So I'm busy this summer, man. So just tune into the old Instagram page and the interwebs, and you'll check it out.
I love it. And then Twitch, you have a big drop for a DBK coming out?
Yeah, we actually are doing a bike giveaway for the month of April. Yeah, so we got another bike giveaway going. Those things do good.
Nice.
What do they got to do to win a bike?
They just got to come to my website and buy some shit.
That's it?
Yeah, that's right.
They don't got to race you or anything?
Nothing. Everyone's in there to win. You buy a sticker.
Just put that email in.
I think the last dude won a bike and all he bought was a beanie for $15.
No way.
Yeah, second order.
DBK
second order with us ever. And spent $15 and won a brand new bike?
The first time I ever rode a bike, just a quick story before we go.
I think I've seen it here in the parking lot, huh?
30 seconds. I'm out here. I was on this thing. Twitch just built me this little pit bike thing.
Yeah.
Super fast. I'd never been on a bike. I'm scared of bikes. I got on a Razor scooter. I fell. So I got on this thing. I'm peeling out. I'm trying to learn how to do a wheelie. The guys are like, yo, chill out. This guy's brand new F-150. He's cruising out like the Raptor. And he's like coming out of the parking lot. And I like do it. And I don't know what to do. I let go of the bike. The bike goes flying into his car. I like hide behind a car and I'm looking. And I'm like, oh, this dude's going to kill me. It's like, I'm going to have to fight this guy. And then he gets out of the car. He goes, what happened? I go, nothing. He didn't even know that my bike ran into him. He has a huge dent in the back of his F-150. I go, you're good, bro. And then he's like, all right, cool. Thanks. Have a good day. And he just peels off. We never saw him again. I thought the bike was broken. Twitch brought me another one, but that guy had a huge dent in the back. And I'm like, yo, you got to help me learn how to do a wheelie.
And he never came back to headquarters.
No, I'm sure he did. But like by that time we were gone. And I didn't even tell him I was here. I was like, yo, something happened. We're right here. And I pointed across the street. So like, I'm sure he went there looking for me, but we're good. Twitch is like, just point that way. I'm like, all right.
I'm always like, cover the rear brake, dude. Never take your foot off the rear brake doing a wheelie.
Bro,
just to be honest, I can't wheelie either.
Stop.
I swear to God. I mean, I can wheelie a motorcycle, but I can't wheelie like these dudes wheelie.
This dude wheelied from one side of the street to the other.
No, I can't. Honestly, I can wheelie. Like he's probably seen it. Like I can
they
wheelie.
Don't practice that stuff.
We don't practice that. It's all about speed, bro. It's all about lap times.
Yeah.
And
not going so slow and trying to see how high you can get your wheel up.
I swear, there's a lot of guys that can't. I'm one of them that can't do like a slow wheelie. Like
they don't ever do that. Like when they're done practicing for the day, they're out. I ain't touching my bike. I'm gone.
I practice every day. I'm falling off. That's all I want to do. You know how cool it is? Like a girl shows up, I don't got to say anything. I can impress her with a wheelie. And
perfect.
I'm in.
Just don't ghost ride your bike and do another car.
No, we're straight.
Ghost ride the whip.
Everybody, we got one of the best to ever do it. One of the best to ever do it. Sitting at the same table, telling stories. This is what we're about. And we appreciate everybody's love and support. This is the Jaxxon Podcast. I'm Degidio. Don't forget to like, subscribe, win a bike. Check them out on Instagram. We out.